Hello, welcome back to Book Club. We are going through the next chapter of Over Extroverts. And today we're talking about the Irish exit. So it's another one of our nice short chapters. How do you leave an event without spending another half an hour to 45 minutes talking to everyone, saying goodbye to everyone? It's not a good use of time or energy. So that's the gist of the chapter if you haven't read it yet. And love to hear your thoughts and any stories. I'm excited for today's topic because I want to hear stories of successful Irish exits.
Wow. Well, I don't know if I have a story.
That's all
Um,
right.
the thought that crossed my mind was I do try to say goodbye to the host of the event
Mhm.
in person before I go. Um, but I know there are a lot of times that I was at events that, I kind of had this feeling like I had to say goodbye to people. And over time that has lessened somewhat. And I sort of recognize now when I'm like, okay, I've got to go. I say goodbye to whoever I happen to be talking to at the moment. Um, and I'm looking around and in my head I'm going, okay, is there somebody else I need to say goodbye to? Anymore, I kind of stop myself and I'm like, no, you decided you're going to go, just go. So, but I loved also the tip that about going to the bathroom, excusing yourself to go to the bathroom, and then kind of cut out the back door.
Yeah.
As long as you loop the host in there first.
Agreed. And that is something that I wasn't quite thinking about in this chapter because I was thinking more networking events and things where there's not one specific host. Certainly, if you're in somebody's home or at a party where there is a host, definitely say goodbye to the host. Yeah. We want to keep things polite, but if it's a big event and there's not one specific host or it's a group that's hosting it or whatever, I think you're fine to just bail. Yeah. Does anyone feel strange doing that, or are we good at it? It took me a while. I had to practice it, and it got easier with time. I do think there's a very strong social norm that's we all kind of go through it. We have our script of you say hi to everyone, and even within that, there's a script. Hi, how are you? How's it going? Good. How are you? How's it going? Good. Can't stand it. And then you go around, maybe you talk about something else. And then when it's time to leave, oh, bye, good to see you. Okay, take care, bye. It's so much wasted time and energy, but we all kind of do it because we live in the world. Um,
It happens on the phone too. Even when you're just talking with one person, sometimes I find myself feeling like, I should say more um, before I go or make one last comment, or that there's that it's not a get the last word in kind of thing, but it's, how many times saying, well, I hope you're doing well, or I hope this goes well, or whatever. How many times can you go around saying that? So I find the same kind of dynamic going on sometimes with just one person on the phone.
yeah, agreed. Keith and I are rewatching Mad Men again right now, the show Mad Men. And one thing we keep commenting on is when they're on the phone, they often don't say goodbye. They just stop talking and hang up the phone. It's very strange. I don't know if that's just specific to that show or if that's how it used to be back in the 60s. I wasn't alive then, so I don't know. And maybe we've just gotten more, I don't know, more awkward on the phone where it feels like it has to be more of a, there's an introduction and then a middle and then a conclusion because we don't do it as much. I'm not sure. But it's interesting that we've had conversations around this. Like he just hung up the phone and didn't even say goodbye. It's a normal thing. But yes, running to the ladies' room and then piecing out is a good tactic. So is um, fake phone calls, fake emergencies, fake. I'm not advocating lying, but you could, oh, I gotta attend to this.
I'm less comfortable with that because I feel like I'm lying.
I had one that was like it was like a half truth yesterday. I was at an event and I did have to pull out my computer to send an offer to be countersigned. And then it was done, but I already had my computer out. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I could easily just use this as an excuse to bail. And I hung out for a couple more minutes and then I'm like, you know what? I gotta take care of this offer. I gotta go. And then I left. So it was like, it was half true, but I didn't have to leave at that moment. I just wanted to, and it was a good excuse. So I don't know. Do whatever you guys are comfortable with. But I think the overall theme is it's okay to leave something when you want to leave. That is the thesis. Leave when you're done versus staying because of obligation or social norms or feeling awkward. That's really all I have to say on the topic. What other thoughts or questions around this? It's a pretty straightforward one. No, we're pretty
I
good.
have a question. Is this
Yeah,
just in general, or is this when you have like an appointment or a meeting or networking? What exactly is this?
good question. Good question. So, originally, the thought behind this chapter was for an event where you're attending, and I had in my mind a networking event, like a Chamber of Commerce event or an event at a conference or something where you're around a lot of people and it's a crowd and it's loud. And at some point, probably most of us are going to want to leave before it's over. So this chapter was meant to be a resource for how do you do that without feeling like, ah, I have to stay till the end. Now, when you're in a conversation one-on-one with somebody, that's very different because you do have to exit that conversation in a different way. You can't say, oh, I have to run to the restroom and then just leave. That would be super weird because they're going to notice. Versus if you're in a room with 200 people, no one's really going to notice. And if they do, you could say, oh, I'm sorry, I had to go. Um, so when you're with somebody in a conversation, I had this happen. I was having a one-on-one with somebody with a new contact. This was years ago. And normally, when you have a one-on-one with somebody, it's you meet for coffee or lunch. You get to know each other, especially if it's another business person. You get to know what they do for a living, how you can help them. Maybe you brainstorm some ideas together. Typically, those are anywhere from, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour. That's kind of the norm. If you really hit it off, maybe longer. I had this guy hold me hostage at Panera for 3 hours one time. And I kept looking for opportunities to interrupt and leave and make up an excuse and just say, I gotta go. I'm sorry. I can't. And it was not an enjoyable conversation. So it was very weird. He just would not shut up for 3 hours. And I remember because I looked at my clock and I was timing it. So after that, I started setting an alarm. So when I'm meeting with somebody for the first time, and I think it might go over or I truly do have somewhere else I need to be, I will set an alarm on my phone to just keep myself on track. And then when it goes off, then I can decide, do I want to use that as my out? Or are we having a good conversation and I do have time to stick around and I can just ignore it and shut it off? So that's a good trick, just in case you end up with 3 hour Panera guy.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Kind of like having a friend call you at a particular time if you're on a
If you're on
first
a
date
date,
or something, so that whatever I forget what they called it, so that you'd have an out if you needed it.
it is same concept. Same concept.
That does make sense now that she says it happens on the phone because sometimes people can go on and it's kind of hard to be like, okay, I gotta go now. So it makes sense.
It is. And there are a couple of strategies for the phone in particular. One would be at the beginning of the call to say, hey, you know what? I just have a couple minutes, but I really wanted to talk about this with you and just kind of tweak it depending on what it is, but setting it up that you only have a couple minutes. That can be helpful. And then if you need to cut them off, just say, I'm so sorry. I only had a few minutes. I have to run. Can we pick this back up another time?
I like that. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't do that to a client or a lead, but if it's appropriate and makes sense to do that, if they're just talking for the sake of talking, then that's fine. If it's an important conversation, you never want to shut somebody down like that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That friend of mine that I mentioned who
I know
goes
your
on and on.
friend.
I've tried those things with her and it doesn't work.
I mean, if it's a good enough friend, you can just be
Yeah,
more direct, but
true.
yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah, sometimes we do encounter clients who are more of that kind of high I, using a lot of words, extrovert personality. And keep in mind, too, extroverts, they need to talk things out. That's how they are wired for the most part. So part of our job when we're working with extroverts is to allow them that space and give them a container to talk things out. That's part of our job. It's part of us consulting them and helping them stay calm, is letting them talk through their stuff. And so part of us managing our energy is making sure we have enough to allow them to take it when they need to take it. It's this exchange. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Definitely.
It's interesting to think about. This is the stuff that is not talked about very often, except in here. Thank you all for being here at book club because we do have these conversations and they're important. And we can feel, I'm sure you've all felt this when you're talking to another person and they're just really high energy and it's draining. At least for me, it's draining. I can feel my energy level going down with certain people. And I know that, and that's okay. And I just have to have enough to start with so that when it comes down, I'm still up here. I'm not starting from here and going down here.
That's why I don't pick up her phone calls occasionally.
There you go. And I'm very proud of you for that because that's boundaries. That's an important boundary. Yeah, I love it. I'm going to see what we're doing next week. Is it bad that I don't know all the chapters off the top of my head? Um, oh, okay. So next week is the dreaded 20,000 person conference. So we're going to be talking about strategies for going to large real estate conventions or really any convention, any conference. It's one of my favorites. Conferences used to be really hard for me, and then I learned how to make them work, and now I really enjoy them. So come back for that. We can wrap things up early. Any last thoughts or questions on the Irish goodbye? No offense to Irish people.
No, right.
I think it's a great concept. I never knew it had a title before, and so it was really nice to put a name to something that I've d actually done on occasion, not knowing what it was.
Yeah. I mean, the origins of it, of the phrase, are a little weird. The origins, for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't read the book, it comes from, I want to say it started in Boston from my research, but it started with people in the pub drinking too much, and they would leave without talking to anyone, so no one would know how drunk they were. That's why it is called the Irish goodbye, because it's all like the drunk Irish people. Again, no offense, but that is where it came from. And I didn't know that. I looked it up because I was wondering the etymology of that phrase. And now it's a very common phrase for just leaving without saying goodbye for whatever reason, drunk or not. But I thought that was kind of funny. I always like knowing where words and phrases come from.
That is so funny. I never knew that.
Yeah. Or just like maybe if I just leave and don't talk to anyone, they won't know that I'm wasted. I like it. It's funny. We don't encourage that. We encourage drinking in moderation or not drinking at all, whatever you prefer. Don't stumble through the streets of Boston. It's not a good idea. The drivers aren't very good here. So yeah, next time you're at an event, definitely say goodbye to the host. Thank you, Sharon, for that. And don't feel bad about leaving. Just go. The other thing is it lets you, if you did need to say goodbye to someone and you didn't, you can always circle back with them the next day and say, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I had to run. And then you have an excuse for follow-up. So it's a win-win. Excellent. All right. Thank you all. See you next week. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.